this deal, and he was against the Amazon deal, so maybe they saw the writing on the wall. But I think a lot of people are surprised because, yeah, Amazon doesn't get pushed around. I mean, just, we've seen how Jeff Bezos handles his own personal matters with American media. And so I think that was the shock that maybe another company might have pulled out, but Amazon, is supposed to be the big company that will stick around, and now they're not.
Do you think this has dulled the company's shine a bit?
I think it's maybe a point in Amazon's development where maybe they need to rethink things a bit. Maybe, the red carpet isn't rolled out everywhere for them, that they need to make a better case for why they should be in different communities. There's lots of different sides to this. People say that New York's going to lose jobs, it's going to lose economic, an upside here. Other people are saying the incentives that were given to Amazon were too great. So I think they're going to have to make a bigger case. They might have to sort of clean up their act. In other ways, there's been, alleged issues around not paying workers enough. I think there's going to be more scrutiny on Amazon as they get bigger and as they expand more. So I think this is a bit of a wake-up call for them and possibly for cities who are courting big companies like Amazon.
Right. New York missing out on 25,000 jobs there. Let's shift gears and talk about Canopy Growth for a minute. Their revenue has shot through the roof. Not everything rosy for the company, though. Can you explain that?
So they just reported on Friday their earnings, and everybody's watching this because this is the first earnings report since marijuana became legal. So it's reporting the last 3 months of the year. Cannabis became legal on October 17th, and they saw sales increase by over 280%, so a massive jump. And that's good news for them. But their expenses also increased by quite a bit, about $157 million in losses, and that's up about from 28 million the year before. So there's a big gap there. They lost more than they made, and I think we're going to see a lot of that going forward because there's still heavy investments into cannabis operations, not just from Canopy, but other companies have reported kind of similar results. Big gains on the revenue side, big losses on the other side. And there's still some growing pains here, but I think these companies are seeing this as a positive. The stock prices of cannabis companies are starting to creep up again because there is demand and people are buying their products.
Okay, finally, just quickly here, we do have to talk about SNC-Lavalin. We've seen the political firestorm that the story has really launched in our country, but can you talk about the impact that we're seeing on the company, its workforce, because this is definitely a company that we've seen with operations around the world, so far-reaching impact, I'd imagine.
Well, there's about 9,000 jobs in Canada for SNC-Lavalin, and I think there's concern that if this doesn't go their way and they can't bid on federal contracts, now that's the big thing. If they're, if they're found criminally guilty for bribery, which took place before any of the current executives were in power there, then they might lose out on a lot of money and they might have to lay off jobs in Quebec. That's the big and other companies, but I think this could have big implications for their business and their business growth going forward. We'll have to see. They haven't made any of these announcements, but I expect job losses if they don't find a solution to this.
Okay, well, you have to leave it there. Brian Borzakowski, Independent Business Journalist, joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As we head to break, Medicine's famed carnival season kicked off with the water parade today. Thousands of people from all over the world lined the Cannaregio Canal to watch this parade. Features a giant moon balloon carrying a caravella, a small sailing ship dating back to the 15th century. You're watching CTV News Channel. Top stories next.
Book now and enjoy free unlimited open bar, free airfare, and more. Norwegian Cruise Line. Feel free.
With imagination, yeah, yeah, yeah. With imagination. With imagination.
Ashley Johnson.
Salon Pos 12 Hour has treated countless aches and pains. Now we put the same dual ingredient formula in new Salon Pos Jet Spray. One medicine freezes pain, while another keeps it away. Try Salon Pos today.
When I first started my business, I was alone. Little by little, the projects got bigger, and my office did too. To stay competitive, we really had to invest in technology. And thanks to the team we put together, we won big international contracts. But now that we've reached another level, I have different challenges to think about.
With BDC, you're not alone. BDC is the only bank exclusively devoted to entrepreneurs.
Hey, what's up, honey?
New house? And if we're getting a new car, you need to know where to stop.
Really?
Really? Our garbage cans are crushed.
Ford's got your back, and your front and sides, too. This Escape comes with obstacle distance indicator, so it'll know what's there before you do.
Someone's got your number.
And you can get that Escape with no charge four-wheel drive plus $3,000 in rebates.
Yeah, they really do have my number.
Get the SUV built to have your back. Get an Escape today.
Monday on Your Morning, a tour of the West Coast comedy scene as Vancouver kicks off Just for Laughs.
And the 5 affordable beauty secrets that the stars swear by. Start your morning in the know Monday here on CTV. World of Dance is like no other show on the planet. I've never seen it out of this world. You deserve that show.
Get into a new season of World of Dance. Tuesday, February 26th, only on CTV.
Tonight, a British newspaper puts a former Canadian diplomat at the center of a sexual assault allegation. The retired High Commissioner to the UK and former BC Premier accused of groping an embassy worker. The reported incident under investigation. A global health crisis comes to Canada.
Get vaccinated. There's no excuse not to be vaccinated.
Cases of measles jump to outbreak levels as immunization rates drop. Plus, finding a way out of Haiti.
It's been overwhelming, tiring, stressful.
Canadians rescued as civil unrest sweeps the nation.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Good evening. We begin tonight with startling allegations against the former Premier of British Columbia, Gordon Campbell. The United Kingdom's Daily Telegraph reports that Scotland Yard is investigating a complaint of sexual assault against Campbell from when he was Canada's High Commissioner to Britain. The paper says a former embassy staffer accuses Campbell of groping her in 2013. And tonight, a marketing firm where Campbell worked as a consultant said it is dropping his contract in light of the allegations. CTV's Sean Woodward has the details.
Swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance.
He was Premier of British Columbia for a decade, including welcoming the world to Vancouver for the 2010 Winter Olympic Games.
Thank you all very much.
But his possible conduct in a more recent job as High Commissioner to the United Kingdom is raising questions today. Allegations in a British newspaper that a former employee at the High Commission at Grosvenor Square in 2013, Judith Prinz, alleging that Campbell groped her from behind on a staircase. According to the Daily Telegraph, Prinz reported the allegation to London Metropolitan Police last month. Scotland Yard confirming a 54-year-old woman contacted police on the 3rd of January 2019 and alleged she had been sexually assaulted at an address in Grosvenor Square. No arrests have been made at this stage. Inquiries are ongoing. A spokesperson for Campbell claims the incident was already investigated, adding this complaint was transparently disclosed and became the subject of a full due diligence investigation at the time by the Government of Canada and was found to be without merit. It's not the first time Campbell has been in trouble with the law, fined in Hawaii in 2003 for drunk driving. He apologized, His colleagues stood by him then.
Sorry, thank you very much.
Though Edelman, a PR firm run by his former press secretary, Bridget Anderson, says in light of the recent allegations, Edelman and Mr. Campbell have mutually decided to suspend their consulting arrangement until the police investigation in the UK is complete. Politicians in BC who worked with Campbell have told reporters the allegations don't square with their impressions of the man. It's now up to Scotland Yard to determine what happened in London 6 years ago. Sandy?
Thank you, John. CTV's John Woodward in Vancouver, where health officials today issued an urgent plea to parents to vaccinate their children for measles. The preventable disease, one of the most contagious on the planet, was eradicated from Canada more than 20 years ago. Now, Vancouver has at least 8 cases and has officially declared an outbreak. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Melanie Nagy has the details.
A surge in infections in several French schools in Vancouver. Elementary and high schools both hit hard by measles.
Cases are occurring in staff, students, and family members.
Health officials believe the virus was brought to BC after someone traveled outside North America. Measles is highly contagious and can be fatal, especially for young children.
Complications include pneumonia, inflammation of the brain, sometimes seizures, deafness, brain damage, or even death.
The spread of the dangerous disease in Vancouver follows outbreaks in at least 10 U.S. states. In New York, the virus has been spreading since October. More than 200 people have been infected. In Washington state, a public health emergency was declared after 36 cases were confirmed. That number has now surpassed 50.
The best way to stop measles is to make sure that everybody receives the measles vaccine.
Unlike Manitoba, Ontario, and New Brunswick, measles immunization is not mandatory for kids entering BC schools. Something this mother is trying to change.
Yeah, it can be scary.
Katie Clun has launched a petition calling on the provincial government to amend enrollment policies to include mandatory vaccines.
If there's an outbreak, they ask you to stay home, but they're not forced to stay home.
For now, the province isn't budging on its policy. However, BC's health minister has strong words for those refusing vaccination.
Get vaccinated. There's no excuse not to be vaccinated.
The World Health Organization has listed vaccine refusal as one of the top 10 threats to global health this year. Sandy?
Melanie, thank you. There's been another deadly attack in a part of Mexico where thousands of Canadians are on winter vacation. At least 3 gunmen stormed a bar in the Caribbean resort of Cancun near midnight Friday and opened fire, killing at least 5 people and wounding several others. No indication so far of a motive. But a turf war between rival drug gangs was blamed for a recent assault on a bar in the nearby resort town of Playa del Carmen. 7 men died in that attack. This week, the state government announced new plans to counter violence along the coast. More than 100 Quebecers are happy to be back in Canada tonight after a harrowing escape from Haiti. The tourists who touched down in Montreal tonight had to be airlifted from their seaside resort by helicopters because of widespread violence in the streets. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver has more.
It's not the way these tourists expected to leave Haiti. On an emergency evacuation, taking one group of stranded Canadians at a time to the airport. The growing unrest in that country made it too dangerous and too difficult to access the roads to the airport.
It's bittersweet. I'm really happy to be leaving. I can't wait to be back in Canada. Just a little sad that this is the way the trip ended.
For tourists at this resort, Air Transat organized the safe transport to the airport. But for others, like these Alberta missionaries, they had to pay for it themselves. A GoFundMe page raised thousands for a group of Canadian nurses who fly out on Monday.
We are safe here, but they will not let us go